Success is never owned. It's rented, and the rent is due today. This is by far one of my favorite things that I've ever said from the stage. And it's one of my favorite quotes. And I've been saying this for years, and it never stops being true. So I started using this particular quote when I was speaking on leadership. And I was also talking about corporate culture. A really good corporate culture is never owned. When you think about it, it's rented and the rent is due every single day. Anything that you have is rented. It's almost like you really don't own anything. But it's also the thing that nobody wants to hear. You don't build a great culture once and you get to keep it forever. You don't earn it in a single offsite and coast for the next 3 years. The day that you stop paying for it, the day that you stop paying the rent is the day that things start slipping away for you. I've had a couple of guests on the podcast who've talked about the 1%. Recently, Lisa Bain was talking about it in her book, Now What? It's just like the 1% change. And also, Patrick Verino, who also talked about the 1% change in his recent leadership book. And I still use this quote today because it really does apply to everything. So today, this is what I want to talk to you and share with you my philosophy, because I think it might be the most valuable thing that I teach you this week. And I want you to think about it this way. You can tell your spouse, and this is what I used to say on stage, I love you one time at the altar. And you would never expect that to carry you for your entire marriage. That's just not how it works. They need to hear it and feel it again the next day and the next day and the next day. I know for myself, like as part of that relationship, I don't have children, but you can't tell your kids, great job once, and then consider that your parenting is finished. You would never do that. They need to know and be guided again and again and again. And here's a great one. You can't eat one salad and decide that you are healthy. Believe me, I wish that were true, because I do eat a lot of salads, but I would love to have pizza. But wouldn't it be nice if you could just have that salad once or go to the gym that one time and then be done with it for the rest of your life? Think about all the time you would save. But that's not the case. You eat the salad again the next day. You eat those vegetables again the next day. You go back to the gym the next day and the next day and the next day. Your health, your fitness level is not owned. It's rented. And the rent is due with every single rep, with every single salad, with every single good choice that you make towards your health or towards your fitness. And if you want a great team, you have to put in the work. You cannot be warm and generous with compliments on one day and then expect miracles out of your people for the rest of the year. That one good day buys you exactly that, one day. The rent on a team that trusts you, that brings you their best, that shows up, that runs through a wall for you, comes through repetition, because you pay attention to it. You paid it by showing up for them. You paid the rent every single day and every single week on repeat. And the leaders who forget this are the ones genuinely confused about why their best people are quietly checking out, are quitting, are finding new positions. They paid the rent once and they assumed that they were good. And that's not, it's just not that way. And here's the thing that hits closest to home for me, and probably for you, especially if you're listening to this podcast. Your speaking skill is a muscle. It's like your bicep. And if you want to get strong, you need to use it. You need to do the reps. You don't get to train it once and call yourself a speaker for the rest of your life. You lose what you don't use. I have friends who are professional speakers, since I come from the professional speaking world, and I love what they do when they take a peek at their calendar and they don't have anything on there for a couple of weeks. They start calling local companies and offering to come in and speak, sometimes for free, sometimes for a very small fraction of their speaker fee. And it's just to do the reps, it's just to pay the rent. Or I know some of them who actually stand up at their office and they deliver their talk to nobody. They're smart. They're doing a rep, they're paying the rent. They know that staying sharp is rent. Now, think about a priest or any minister who gives a sermon every single week. They're doing a rep, they're paying the rent every single week. They are writing, they are practicing, and they are delivering every single week. That relentless schedule is the whole reason why they're so good in front of a room. All right, not every minister is great in front of a room because they probably haven't been professionally trained, but they never stop paying the rent. Now I want you to look at your own week if you happen to be in corporate. You have meetings that materialize out of nowhere. Someone turns to you and says, "Walk us through where this stands. Give us an update." And suddenly you are speaking, not always scheduled, and you are in front of people who decide what happens next. So I have to ask you, what are you actually doing to uplevel that skill before the moment shows up? Because the moment is going to show up whether you've been paying the rent or not. For me, it's this podcast. I record one every single week. This is me putting in the reps. This is me paying the rent with my own voice. But this is not the only place that I am speaking. I speak virtually, I speak in person, I am podcast guesting. There are so many different ways that I am practicing each and every single day. Again, I am paying the rent every single day, every episode. And it also shows up when people call me and say, "Hey, our speaker backed out," or "Our speaker is sick. Are you available tonight?" And sometimes I'm able to if my schedule is free. Absolutely. I've done enough reps that I can fill in for an unscheduled meeting. And I'll be honest with you about the hard version of this because I've lived it. Working out for me isn't just a habit. I don't really want to call it a habit because it's really like part of my lifestyle. It's part of who I am. But I also learned exactly how fragile that is because I had an injury and for weeks, all I could do was walk. That was it. No deadlifts, no Stairmaster, none of the workouts, no Spartacus, none of the workouts that are second nature to me now. I could only walk because I had to let my body heal. And when I finally was ready to get back to my regular routine, it was hard. Harder than I expected because I had fallen behind on the rent. And getting back up to speed took everything that I had. I had taken a few steps backwards, essentially, and I had to work hard to get back to ground zero. And that's a part of the philosophy that nobody puts on a motivational poster because falling behind on the rent is super easy. It happens quietly. It happens a little bit at a time while you're recovering or you're busy or you're just tired. But catching up does have a price. And if you don't pay the price, if you don't pay the rent, you're going to pay in interest, essentially. So, whatever you're working towards, I want you to understand it's not owed to you. You do not own it because you did it well one time. You have to pay the rent. You have to do the reps. The reps are the rent. The practice is the rent. Showing up again tomorrow when you'd rather not, that's the rent. You don't own success. You work at it every single day. And this is exactly the work that I do with my clients. We build the reps into how you already operate so your speaking is sharp before the impromptu meeting ever happens, not after it embarrasses you. I make sure that you are paying the rent on purpose. A little every week instead of scrambling to catch up the moment a high stakes room appears. So if you've been coasting on one good performance and feeling the ground shift underneath you, That's the gap that I help you close. I want to encourage you to book an executive presence audit and let's look at where you've fallen behind and exactly what it's going to take to get you ahead. And that link is down below. The rent is due today, and today is the perfectly good day to start paying it. And I don't know if you noticed, but last week there was no Thursday episode. That's right. We are going back to one episode a week. It's going to be dropped on Mondays because I know that you're busy and I want you to take what you're learning from my podcast and actually applying it because each episode builds on each other. I want the best for you, and I want you to constantly be reaching for your goals, that next big opportunity, and who can you impact this week. And so until next week, I want you to be in demand.